of the last things the current Congress has done before heading home for the holidays is pass a law that federally recognizes same-sex marriage, and it passed with a fair amount of Republican support. That was unimaginable to many just a few years ago, and this time on Poll Hub, we're looking at our new poll numbers and new census data that underlies how much has changed in such a short time. Then our annual holiday poll questions are always a fun way to usher in the season, and this year we have a big new winner of our most annoying word of the year. You think I'm going to give it away here? Absolutely not. Finally, for the first time ever, the entire Marist Poll team joins for our triple fun fact extravaganza. Boy, that sounds exciting. It's our gift to you, so stick around. And hi, everybody. Welcome to Poll Hub. I'm JD Dapper.
I'm Barbara Carvalho.
I'm Mary Griffith.
And I'm Lee Marinkoff.
So one of the things that Congress has accomplished on the way out the door here at the end of 2022 is passing a bill that had bipartisan support, which is a little bit surprising, and you'll understand that in a minute, and sending it to President Biden's desk, and he signed it in a big ceremony last week, federally recognizing same-sex marriages. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a second, same-sex marriage was legal, the Supreme Court ruled. Well, there's a twist in that. That was that there was some talk once the abortion decision was handed down this summer that maybe same-sex marriage wouldn't actually be protected by the Supreme Court, and so Congress took to what it does. It wrote a law that made that the case. The reason that this is so interesting right now is that the Census Bureau just released new numbers showing that same-sex couple households in the U.S. surpassed 1 million for the first time. There's 1.2 million in 2021, and of those same-sex couple households, almost 60% are married, which, would have been somewhat inconceivable 20 or 30 years ago. So we wanted to talk to somebody who knows about the demography of same-sex couples and LGBTQ populations, and Dr. Shoshana Goldberg from the Human Rights Campaign. She's a director of public education and research, joins us. Dr. Goldberg, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you all.
So what does this mean, this milestone of 1.2 million same-sex couples in the Census Bureau data, and that 60% are married? Is this a milestone? Is it a marker? What is this?
I mean, yeah, I completely agree. I think it is a milestone. I think it is a marker. I think it shows, that this is a thing that our community wants and a thing that our community values. And it is exciting to get to see, not even 20 years ago, this was inconceivable. And so now to have 1.2 million same-sex couples, over 700,000 who are married, is really exciting. And especially in light of the RMA passing, those 711,000 couples who are married can wake up today knowing that their marriage is protected and will be recognized no matter what happens.
So to take a look at the data, Dr. Goldberg, what really strikes you? Is there something that stands out as a surprise, perhaps?
I think the thing that I find really, to me, I find very exciting is one, same-sex couples are in all states. They're in red states and blue states. We think that they're only in the coast, but actually when you look at the states that have the highest number of same-sex couples, there's California and New York, yes, but there's also Texas and Florida and Georgia. Like, we're found everywhere. We're from all racial and ethnic backgrounds. We are from all education levels. Many are raising kids, 18% of same-sex married households, 50% of all same-sex couples are raising children. So, this idea that it's just this small little group is not really bearing out. Like, we're a large descendant demographic. We're a main component of the US population, and we're here to stay, and we're going to continue to be here as well.
Yeah, the state thing, I think, might surprise people. In the top 10 states, according to the Census Bureau, as a percentage of same-sex, the highest percentage of households that are same-sex couples, DC is the highest, 2.5%. And then there's Hawaii and Delaware and Oregon, Massachusetts, California, Florida, Texas, Connecticut, Washington. And so that, on one hand, says, well, yeah, that's the places you'd expect that to be. But what was surprising to me was these little states like North Dakota and South Dakota, where I might ignorantly think I'd show up there and I'm not going to see a same-sex couple, that they actually have the highest same-sex marriage rates of same-sex. There aren't a lot of same-sex couples, but their marriage rates are the highest. I thought that was striking, that these very small states and these states where you might not expect that to be the case, that was the case. Is that, well, I was going to ask why that was and give you a possible reason, but why is that, do you think?
I mean, well, let me hear your reason first.
Well, my guess is that it has to do with codifying that in states that are perhaps not as friendly to same-sex couples because of other types of laws that may exist or the culture that exists there. And by marrying, you have legal protections that are perhaps more important than they would be in a place like New York or California.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an excellent hypothesis. Like we know, for example, like the RMA is really exciting, but we still have a lot of work to do, including passing the Equality Act, which would do just that. It would codify non-discrimination protections on the basis of both sex and gender into law across this country, including those 29 states which don't have protections in housing or in finance. So like being able to get a loan and buy a house or visit your partner in the hospital or, have to even worry about being evicted or fired from a job or, kicked out of a business for, who you are. And so I think that's a really good point. Like by getting married, you get access to different protections that would not necessarily be extended to a non-married couple. There's also the idea of just, family values are important to many LGBT folks. And so, maybe in a community where marriage is valued, then that would extend to both same-sex couples and other sex couples alike.
Yeah, and that's a point that I wanted to pick up on, and perhaps this is a bit of a naive question, but when we look at the data and we look at the number of same-sex couples that are there, what do you think this does in terms of acceptability, in terms of perceptions of Americans overall? I mean, does this, sort of boost the acceptability of same-sex marriage, same-sex couples? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think there is a bit of a chicken and egg thing going on, but we know from prior research that visibility is one of the greatest ways that we can improve and increase acceptability of people. So, when you ask people about their opinions on LGBT rights, those who know somebody who's queer or trans, or who themselves are queer or trans, or who have people in their family who are queer or trans, are much more likely to, be in favor of pro-equality policies or to support, same-sex marriage, for example. And so I think that the more visibility, the more that people realize that LGBT folks are not, again, like these coastal communities, but they are your friend, your neighbor, your sibling, your coworker, your teacher, your student. And they're just like us. They're regular people who have lots of other values and things that they care about and hobbies and stuff like that. And, just want to get married and raise kids just like, you may, the more that we see increased acceptance. And we're seeing this bear out in polling data, like consistently, the vast majority of Americans support same-sex marriage. Gallup found it was like over 70%. A lot of their polls finding around 2/3 or more. And that's consistent across, demographics, across religiosity, across gender, across race, across, any demographic, pretty much you name it, we're seeing the vast majority of people do support same-sex marriage. And I think that is because of the fact that as it became more legalized and as more people were exposed to LGBT people in their community, the more likely they were to follow suit and support.
In fact, our latest data, which is a week old from with the poll that we did, a national poll with NPR and PBS NewsHour, our partners, 67% of Americans say they strongly favor legal same-sex marriage. 30% still opposing, strongly opposing. I wonder though if we've asked questions in other polls about trans issues, especially around sports, which has been a real flashpoint. I wonder if on to the next battle, is this like, well, great, but it's not over?
Absolutely. So 2022 was the worst year for state legislation, where more anti-LGBT, particularly anti-trans and anti-trans youth bills passed in the states. And those include bills that determine who can play on a sports team and who can access medical care and what can be taught in our kids' schools. We are not done fighting, and we're certainly expecting to continue to fight. We're already seeing states start to file bills in 2023 that are attacking the same things, particularly gender affirming care. I think that a lot of what is happening right now is that there is this extremist wing that thinks that pushing these issues is going to rile up their base. But, fortunately, I don't think they're correct. they're convincing some people, but the vast majority of Americans still are in favor of equality. And, we saw this in the midterms where overwhelmingly, division and extremism was rejected. Many politicians who made anti-trans stances the focal part of their closing arguments, people like Herschel Walker, Blake Masters, Doug Mastriano, who were not necessarily in like blowout races. Like they lost their races because they were rejected for these like extreme stances. And at the same time, we're also seeing more and more people coming out and living openly as LGBTQ, particularly in younger generations. We're also seeing that more and more younger generations are also becoming more pro-equality in their views and more expecting that not only are they going to be pro-equality, but they want their employers to be pro-equality and the businesses that they support to be pro-equality. So those who are looking to push these extremist anti-LGBT and anti-trans views are on the wrong side of history, the wrong side of the electorate, and they're also on the wrong side of demographics.
Well, Dr. Shoshana Goldberg, Director of Public Education and Research at the Human Rights Campaign, we thank you so much for joining us today, and we wish you a very happy holiday season.
Thank you so much for having us.
Well, speaking of the holiday season, 'tis the season to either be stressed out or jolly, and that's one of the questions that we tend to ask around this time of year at the Marist poll. And that is whether or not Americans consider the holiday season to be more fun or more stressful. And this year, 61% of Americans say the holiday season is more fun rather than stressful. That proportion was at 37%. And the proportion of Americans who say that the season is more fun is up from 52% last year and is actually at its highest since we first asked this question in 2010. So, Barb, more stressful or more fun?
I think post-pandemic, I think we're all looking forward to getting back to traditions of old, whatever they are, and getting out. I know that, just the idea of spending time with even friends, family, even colleagues, at holiday get-togethers has been much more, I think, enjoyable. Not that it hasn't always been enjoyable, but I think there has been a sense that you have to somehow prepare a lot more in the past. And right now, I think the focus is on people and seeing people and getting together. And even though we have been out and about, over the last year, I think this is the first Christmas in quite a while, even though we have this what's considered a triple-demic, and people still need to be wary and careful. I think this is the first time in a couple of years, 3 years, that we're all able to get out.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal, and I agree. It's a way to go back in time and pick up where people left off. As opposed to all the hardship that people went through. And obviously for some, that's still part of the memories of who went through, trauma as a result of COVID. But for those who can sort of get back into the swing of things, it's an opportunity and one that people are taking advantage of.
I love these questions for the trend. So when we first asked this in December of 2010, which was a very tough economic period, 59% said more stressful, and it's never been that high since. But the other economic question we ask is spending online, and this one's another one, which I love. The trend on this: do you plan to shop online for almost some or none of your holiday gifts? And this is both the future coming. So when we started asking in 1999, nobody was shopping mostly online, and now it's 44% this year. But also that blip, 2020, 53% said most or all. This year it's back down to 44%. I think 2020 was like the height of online shopping because of COVID, and we actually are seeing that in this trend. I think that's really interesting.
I think that is something that is a bit of a holdover, Jay, in the aftermath of the height of the pandemic, because with the exception of 2020, this is the highest proportion of Americans who have said that they're doing all or most of their shopping online. I know for me, I'm pretty much doing all of it, except maybe a few gift cards here or there that I have to pick up.
I think it's very interesting. And my question really was, if you take out your crystal ball, do you think online shopping is going to grow, or have we really reached the height of it, during the pandemic? Because I remember asking this question when, handfuls of people would shop online, and it was kind of almost a foreign question to think of that. And we reached this peak, during the pandemic. And I, for one, was surprised that it actually did come down. I mean, it's certainly higher than it has been in the past, but I was surprised it came down that much from the post-pandemic, because I like Mary, I'm afraid I have been in the habit of, point and click, and then all of a sudden UPS or FedEx shows up.
Is it possible that people missed the riding around the parking lots in the mall looking for a place to park, and that they missed the long lines and the not finding what they wanted conveniently and all that? Is that part of coming back to normal?
You know what? You may have something there, Lee.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had one other thing I wanted to raise, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, more men than women are shopping online. Comments on that? I have a theory.
Well, and also, look, women are more likely to feel the stress of the season, I think, and also the pressure of, maintaining a number of the holiday traditions, for family. So there's always someone who is in that role in every family. And we do see there is a gender difference. But back in the day, we did ask, when people finished their holiday shopping, and men were always the last minute shoppers. So perhaps online shopping may have solved that problem for them.
Before we do move on, and we do have to move on because we want to bring in our entire Marist poll team for the fun fact, our holiday related fun facts. But Jay, I want to toss this over to you. We asked about the most annoying word or phrase used in conversation. It's one of our favorite polls that we do every year. And Jay, what is the most annoying word this year?
Woke. So it's been whatever for, forever. And we put a new word in this year. And woke was the most annoying word in conversation. Whatever is down to 22%. It is what it is, that old chestnut. It's 15%. Like, you know what I mean? It's 12%. I think I've already done that. 9%, and just kidding is 7%. But yeah, we have a new champ. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but whatever.
Well, I was surprised that there was not a huge partisan difference. I mean, if we get back to politics, there was pretty much a consensus that that is the most annoying word of 2022. So we'll certainly await the next word or phrase in the coming year.
And here we go, Lee. It's time for your last fun fact of 2022.
We have a special fun fact with all of our staff going to be joining in for this series of holiday questions. We're going to start right now with 1950, going way back in a Gallup poll. And they asked, does your family open presents on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? Now, we're going to have a slight preview on this. Stephanie, you have a problem with this. Stephanie Calvano, you're a question person. What's going on here?
Problem is a strong word. When I was thinking about how I would answer it, I thought about rewording the question of, in your family, do you open most of your presents on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? Right. But adding the word most, because in my family, we have a tradition of one Christmas Eve present and then the rest of them on Christmas Day. So
that's what we always did. Yeah.
So asking it on its face, I'd have to say both. But if you ask when I open most of my presents, it would be Christmas Day.
I do have a 3% national response for both. And Christmas Day was 52, Christmas Eve 30. So people were able to get past it. But there is a 3% there for you if you want it. All right.
Yeah, but,
what else?
But you know what, Lee? I think what was interesting is, when Stephanie was talking about the present opening traditions, everyone was nodding along with the Christmas Eve and then the Christmas Day. So this is a holiday season, and I think that there are opening of presents throughout the holiday season.
Does everybody
and it doesn't have to just be Christmas.
Is anybody just a Christmas Eve solo in the household? Anybody solo Christmas Day?
I used to be.
Okay,
prior
Daniela.
To children. Yeah, prior to children, my husband and I used to have big Christmases for each other. Now we don't buy anything for each other. But
socks.
We always maybe
socks.
Maybe, or maybe gummy bears for him, but that's about it. But we used to open all of our presents presents Christmas Eve because we couldn't wait. We were like children and we get excited. But then once we had kids, we moved on so that we'd let them open the one on Christmas Eve and then everything else Christmas morning.
Anybody solo for Christmas Day? Not Christmas Eve. Everybody held out? Delayed gratification? Nobody. Mary, what was going on in the Griffith household? Izzoli household when you were growing up. Griffith household now.
Griffith household is Christmas morning with the kids. Azzoli households growing up, Santa came to visit on Christmas Eve and he had his pack with him. And so we opened our Christmas presents, but we got our stockings in the morning. So it was a hybrid.
We move on to question number 2. Do you feel that Christmas is as celebrated today is too elaborate?
This
too
is
commercial?
1973, Lee. This is
1973, the year I graduated college. Is it celebrated today? Is it too elaborate, too commercial? Or does it strike about the right balance between the gift giving and the Christmas spirit? So you have two choices. One is it's too elaborate, too commercial, and that was 76% of a national audience. And to strike the right balance was 21. So let's, Rachel, why don't you jump in on this one? Too elaborate, strike the right balance. What do you think?
I would typically say strike the right balance, but I'm leaning a little bit towards too commercial because my mom, I don't know if anybody watches the Hallmark Christmas channel. My mom starts watching them right after Halloween. So that's pushing it a little bit. That's pushing it a little bit for me. I'm going to say too elaborate.
Yeah. Okay. Alex, what do you got?
I also think too elaborate these days. I feel like on Halloween night, that's when they're starting to get the Christmas stuff out. And I just feel like it's a tad too early. We give no respect to Thanksgiving anymore now.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, which is, one of my favorite holidays too.
I thought what was interesting about this is I think most people think it's too elaborate and too commercial now because it is, at least in my opinion. But in 1973, I mean, that was, a long time ago. And yet even then it was already, how far back would you have to ask this question when people went, oh, no, strikes the right balance? Like the 1800s, before Macy's? I don't know.
All right, Mike Conti on this one. And then I'll take Mary and then Casey on this one and we'll move on.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I would say it would strike the right balance. Now that I have 4 nieces and nephews that you have to buy presents for, it is far too elaborate. It is far too elaborate. They don't appreciate it. It's all about the gift giving now.
Can you do a bah humbug for us, Mike?
Nah.
The same thing.
That even better.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, Lee. I just wanted to pass it over to Mike because I just wanted to hear the bah humbug or the meh. So.
Oh, okay. And then Casey, what do you got on this, on the elaborate right balance?
I think it's too elaborate, but only a wee bit because I like all the elaborateness. I'm watching those Hallmark movies before Halloween ends.
Question number 3, 1980. This year, this is a funny question. This year compared to last year, will you be paying for Christmas presents more with credit, more with cash, or not any differently than you did last year? Jay DeDapper, you got something on this, I know.
Well, yeah. So 8%, this is 1980, 8% said more with credit. 37% said more with cash. Remember, 1980 was a difficult year in the economy. 53% said no difference. My question is, do any of us on this call pay for any Christmas presents with cash?
No.
They're all, everybody's shaking their heads.
It depends on how you define cash, like a debit card.
No, cash. A debit card's a credit card.
No.
It's the same thing. It's a card. Cash, like the green stuff that's paper that used to be in wallets and pockets. Does
little items that you pick up at the drugstore for little stocking stuffers.
Lee, I'm so impressed.
Thank you, Barb.
So, that was my thing, is that the modern version of this, you wouldn't even ask it. We don't ask. Nobody asks this question. The modern version of this question is what we ask this year. Every year, do you do your shopping online or in the store? That's kind of the modern version. That's my take on this.
I also think it's important to note the date because it was only like 74 that women could get credit cards. And back then, it was hard to get a credit card and you didn't need it to have to buy a house.
Women, just to be clear, women couldn't get credit cards without their husbands co-signing.
Yes, correct. Thanks, Jen.
Which assumes something also.
Even more offensive, I think. But anyway.
So do we have any other takers for all of it now online for you guys? All of it? Anybody? Mike Conti, all of it online?
100%. I am not going into the stores. I'm not dealing with the malls. Thank you, Amazon and Jeff Bezos.
Well, all right. So I think from our Marist poll team, we just want to acknowledge everyone, whether you're celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, festive is for the rest of us. We have a very special message for each and every one of you.
Happy
holidays. Yay.
Did that work?
No, the happy holidays was awful.
Happy holidays.
Math.
I jumped the gun on that.
3, 2, 1.
Happy
holidays.
Sleigh bells ring, are you listening? In the lane, snow is glistening.
That'll do it for Poll Hub this week.
Poll Hub is produced by the Marist Poll at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Mary Griffith is our executive producer. Casey Schaff is our production supervisor.
If you enjoy Poll Hub, please consider leaving a review. Positive reviews help other listeners like you find us.
If you'd like to learn more about polling and survey science, check out the Marist Poll Academy, our free online learning portal accessible from our website.
If you have questions for us, tweet them directly to @MaristPoll.
Remember, you can always tell your smart speaker to play Poll Hub.
And with any luck, it will cooperate.
Finally, wherever you listen to Poll Hub,
there is a subscribe button.
Click it, and the latest episode will be ready for you in your podcasting app as soon as it's released.
We'll see you next time.